If you're fed up being built with a backside that's as flat as an ironing board, then these are 5 exercises that you should be doing within your training if you want a bigger, stronger, more shapely set of glutes. Now, I've been coaching women for a long time now, and something that I've learned in my time with working with a lot of women is that you all more or less have a similar type of goal, and that is just a bigger set of glutes, smaller waist. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because I've also coached a lot of men and we typically have the same sort of gym bro goals of a massive pigeon chest and Johnny Bravo arms. So it's all good, there's absolutely no judgment here. But in my time, I've also learned how to most effectively train for those bigger glutes. It's not going to require you to be spending all day, every day in the gym and just training your glutes 5 times a week either. And I completely understand your frustrations of putting in a lot of time, a lot of effort, and feeling like you should be seeing a lot of development in that glute area, but not really getting the kind of reward for the efforts that you're putting in. So what I've done is basically wrapped up everything that I've known and the exact methods that I use with my female clients to achieve bigger glutes, and just put it all into one video for you to go and implement yourself. So the first exercise we have up is a hip thrust or hip extension. Some kind of exercise where we're basically working the glute on getting as short and contracted as possible under a shit heap of load. What this does is work the glute maximus, which is the largest part and strongest part of the glute, and basically gives it its most shape. But with this kind of exercise, whether it's a hip thrust, a hip extension, glute bridge, some kind of movement where you are kind of thrusting under weight. It's working the glute when it's most short and most contracted, and it's working in that shortened range. Because this is an exercise with quite a short range of movement and we are in a position where we can lift a shit heap of weight under it, we want to focus on just getting as strong as fucking possible on it. So somewhere, if you're doing this exercise, somewhere in the rep range of, I think, 6 to 12, doing 2 to 3 sets, is an adequate amount there. Next exercise up is a Romanian deadlift, whether this is with a barbell or dumbbells. This is also working the glute maximus, so again, the largest part of the glutes here, but what this is doing is basically working that same muscle group at a different range of the movement, okay? So with the hip thrust I was talking about, you know, if you think about where these exercises are most difficult, a hip thrust is most difficult when you're thrusting upwards and there's a lot more weight and load onto your glutes. With an RDL, it's the opposite. It's most difficult when you are lowering the weight to the floor. So it's working that glute in a more lengthened and stretched position. So you're working the same muscle group, however, just in a different way. So doing these on 2 separate days, whether it's like a hip thrust at the start of the week and an RDL at the end of the week, you're going to get more bang for buck there because you're working the same muscle group in 2 different ways. Again, just covering the whole area. Because this is a deadlift and it's slightly more risk feast reward and there's a little bit more compromise towards your lower back here, I would go slightly higher reps. Rather than 6 to 12 like the hip thrust, I would go maybe 8 to 12 or 10 to 12 for the rep range. Again, doing 2 to 3 sets there and focusing on just getting as strong as fucking possible in that movement. Exercise 3, we have some form of unilateral lunge here. So something like a single leg press is a personal favorite of mine just because there's a little bit more stability there. Something like a Bulgarian split squat, a reverse lunge, even a dumbbell or some form of step up as well. Just where we're working each leg individually and independently, and you're really focusing on kind of leaning forward and getting a good stretch in the glutes there before lifting the weight back up. This is also working the glute maximus, but it's also working the glute medius for stabilization issues as well, because obviously all of these movements require some level of stabilization or coordination and balance, and so we're working another part of the glutes along with the glute maximus here, just for that kind of stabilization benefit too. Because this is an exercise where balance, coordination, stabilization are other factors at play here rather than just kind of like lifting the weight, I would go slightly higher rep range. So like barbell hip thrust, we were doing 6 to 12. Romanian deadlift, we're maybe going 8 or 10 to 12. For any kind of Bulgarian split squat, single leg press, step up, reverse lunge, whatever the fuck it might be out of those lot, I would go something about more 10 to 15 and really keep the tempo slow and controlled rather than just thinking, right, I'm lifting weight from A to B. Try and feel your glute stretching, but also try and put the weight through your heels so you can actually get the weight and the tension through your glute as well. Fourth exercise is some kind of hip abduction, okay? Basically where we're thinking about moving your leg away from the midline of your body, okay? So this can be a hip abduction machine. A lot of gyms maybe don't actually have this kind of equipment, so you can do it with cables where you might put like an ankle strap around your ankle, funnily enough, attach it to a cable, and then you're moving your leg away from the cable stack, okay? This is working the glute medius and the glute minimus. So it's like a really, I think people refer to it as the upper shelf. It's basically just that upper portion of your glutes, okay? So this is very much more of a, if we think about the things like your hip thrust and your RDL, those are more like shotgun blasts where it's covering such a large portion of your glutes here and it's like a heavy hitting movement. Something like in a hip abduction movement is more of a sniper shot where it's a lot more precise, there's a lot more precision to it, and because of that we want slightly higher reps just so you can focus on actually feeling the muscle work and putting the weight and the load and the tension through that intended muscle rather than just shifting your legs out and moving weight from A to B. So yeah, again, I would go slightly, rather than 2 to 3 sets, actually make it 3 sets. Don't go below that. And I think somewhere in the rep range of 12 to 15 or even higher from 15 to 20. Fifth and final exercise is a squat. Now this one is it's a bit of a bonus exercise because it's not necessary or needed to build bigger glutes. But I think if we're looking at overall leg development, you don't just want a massive arch, you want more complete legs alongside that, just so everything looks a bit balanced. So with a squat, that is going to hit more of your quads, it's going to hit your adductors, it's also going to hit your glutes as well, more specifically the glute maximus, so the overall glutes, as long as it's a deep squat. So with this, what I would be doing, me personally, if building my glutes was a sole focus for myself, I would be putting a squat variation at the end of my lower body days after like my thrusts, my abduction work, anything else that I've been kind of doing, I'd be doing a squat variation at the end. Somewhere in the rep range of 10 to 15, doing 2 to 3 sets, but really focusing on getting my Rs as low as possible rather than doing half reps, okay? Now, if you're listening to me going through all of these exercises thinking, yeah, Ross, well, how the fuck do I go about putting all of this together and actually implementing it into my week of training? I've actually put together a free glute building training program for you to go and download completely for free. If you're wondering, right, exercise selection, how to actually order it, sets, reps, rest time, everything will be covered for you to actually just go and follow in the gym, and it is a time-efficient glute building program for you to go and build a bunda with. So if you want the link for that, it is in the description below. Just go and put in a few details and download it and I'll send it across. Now it is also worth mentioning, as much as this video is about 5 exercises for building your glutes, it is also worth mentioning that's only one piece of the puzzle here. We also want to look at your nutrition, we want to look at progressive overload, and we want to look at recovery because all of these variables are essential when it comes to building muscle, especially the glutes, which are a fairly large, very strong muscle group, which can be taxing on your central nervous system and take a lot away from you. So nutrition, like you definitely want to be making sure you're getting an adequate amount of protein in. 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight is an adequate amount there, and then filling the rest of your calories up with carbs and fats. Progressive overload, so basically the process of you getting stronger in the gym and making sure that every week you are progressing. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to be lifting more weight every single week or doing another rep. It could be 1 more kilo being lifted. It could be 1 more rep being done. It could just be an improved range of movement or better form, tempo, and control. Even just feeling the muscle working more is a sign of progress there. So rather than just going in and thinking, right, I'm doing 3 sets of 10 to 15 with the same weight and just doing the same shit as last week, you're going in and progressing in some way, shape, or form. And then there's recovery as well, because we don't actually build muscle when we're lifting weights. We build the muscle, the process called hypertrophy, and that starts outside of the gym when we are recovering. When we are sleeping, again, adequate amount of sleeping of 7 to 9 hours and getting enough fluid intake in. So if you're a female, somewhere in the region of like 2 to 3 liters is probably going to be adequate for you. But yeah, getting proper nutrition in, stress management, all the boring, tedious shit that is actually pretty important and will make a difference for your progress. But yeah, that is pretty much a cheat sheet on how to actually effectively build your glutes. Don't be overtraining. Training your glutes like 5 times a week or anything like that is really not necessary. Twice a week, splitting those kind of exercises up into those 2 days is all you need to do. adequate protein, get stronger every single week, and patience as well. It takes a bit of time, and you're not just going to notice a night and day difference overnight. Okay, it will take a bit of time, so be consistent and have a little bit of patience there. But hopefully you've learned something. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see any other videos being covered, or if you want me to get into glute training with a little bit more depth or cover any other areas, and I'll catch you in the next one.